In 1823, West Africa set the stage for the story. The kingdom of Dahomey crowns a young king, Gezo. Their adversaries, the Oyo Empire, have joined forces with the Mahi people to capture Dahomey villagers for European slave traders. The Oyo have the upper hand with their guns and horses, while Dahomey relies on a group of female warriors known as the Agoji. The Agoji infiltrate a Mahi village, led by General Naniska, eliminating the enemy soldiers and freeing the captured villagers. They mourn their fallen comrades at dawn and safely escort the rescued captives back home. Upon their return, just before more Oyo forces arrive, King Gezo acknowledges Naniska as his most trusted soldier. A young woman named Nawi is presented to a man intended to be her husband, despite his older and brutish demeanor. When Nawi remains unresponsive to the man, he resorts to slapping her. In response, she pushes him forcefully enough to make him stumble and fall. Enraged, the man refuses to proceed with the marriage. Nawi's father then takes her to the Agaji and offers her to the king. She is taken under the care of an Agaji soldier named Izugi. Meanwhile, Oyo soldiers, led by General Oba Adi, come across the bodies of their fallen comrades. Oba Adi berates them for allowing their fellow soldiers to be defeated by women, and they begin strategizing their next move against Dahomey. King Gezo convenes his council to address the Oyo threat. During the discussion, Naniska also raises the issue of the slave trade and expresses concern that it tarnishes their kingdom's reputation to sell their own people. She suggests exploring trade in gold or palm oil instead. Gezo responds by requesting Naniska to demonstrate the kingdom's palm oil production capacity before he makes a decision. Naniska's trusted companion, Amenza, addresses the newly recruited Agoji members, emphasizing that they must be prepared to fight and potentially sacrifice their lives for the kingdom. Some women choose to leave, but a significant group, including Nawi, decide to stay. Following this, Izogi instructs Nawi to take a bath, and during this private moment, she engages in a personal conversation with Naniska. The women commence their training regimen. Initially, Nawi is puzzled by the emphasis on ropes and believes she should be starting with bladed weapons. However, Naniska eventually permits her to attempt to decapitate a wooden statue. The sword proves too heavy for Nawi, but Naniska effortlessly beheads the statue with a single swing. At night, Izogi shares a conversation with Nawi, recounting how her mother endured abuse from men until she finally fought back. The training continues, encompassing activities such as running, rifle marksmanship, and combat skills. Nawi plays a mischievous prank by setting off a small explosive on one of the statues, and she takes responsibility for it, enduring a scolding from Naniska as a consequence. Later, Izogi imparts the tale of Naniska's legendary rise through the ranks, which began when she was captured and left for dead, but ultimately emerged as a formidable leader. Amenza pays a visit to Naniska in her hut and, through the use of unique nuts, conveys a premonition about someone from Naniska's past returning. Meanwhile, outside, Naniska observes Nawi honing her sword-fighting abilities on one of the statues. The Oyo forces arrive at the kingdom's gates, and Naniska is filled with dread upon seeing Oba Ade step forward as she recalls the harrowing experiences of his repeated abuse when she was held captive. The Oyo demanded tribute and the surrender of 40 Agoji warriors, but Gezo agreed to provide only 20. Naniska confides in Amenza, confirming the accuracy of her vision. Portuguese settlers make their arrival in Africa. Led by Captain Santo Ferreira and accompanied by his friend Malik, whose mother hails from Dahomey. Malik is deeply disturbed when he witnesses the captured natives. The men become involved as the Agoji confront the Oyo. Naniska firmly declares that they will not offer tributes and instead presents Oba Ade with the severed heads of his men, inciting a fierce clash between the two tribes. During this confrontation, Nawi spots an opportunity to liberate the captives, a move that Naniska considers a deviation from their established plan. After the captives manage to escape, Naniska reprimands Nawi for her actions. However, Amenza privately confides in Naniska, revealing that it was actually she who strayed from the plan, motivated by a strong desire to exact revenge on Oba Ade. Ferreira and Malik meet with Oba Ade and his soldiers as they discuss their plans for the Oyo to form alliances with other tribes, aiming to invade Dahomey and capture more villagers for the purpose of selling them as slaves. Malik visibly displays discomfort upon hearing this news. Later, he heads to the water for a bath, where he is unexpectedly encountered by Nawi, finding him in the nude. Nawi accuses him of being involved in the slave trade, but he vehemently denies it and proceeds to share his own Dahomey heritage with her. As a gesture of goodwill, Malik offers her a piece of jewelry before she retreats to rejoin the others. The kingdom hosts a small tournament in which the Agoji trainees are challenged by an obstacle course, featuring thorn bushes, wall climbing, combat with adversaries, and culminating in the task of decapitating one of the statues. Nawi emerges as the champion, impressing Geizo with her remarkable skill and talent. Subsequently, while tending to Nawi's wounds, Naniska senses something unusual on the girl's arm. This leads Naniska to return to her room, accompanied by Amenza, where she broaches the topic of a child she had relinquished long ago. Naniska is beginning to suspect that Nawi might be that very child. Ferreira engages in a conversation with Geizo, discussing his plans to potentially halt Dahomey's involvement in the slave trade. Ferreira asserts that Geizo's wealth relies heavily on the trade of slaves, emphasizing that without them, his kingdom would be vulnerable and lack protection. In response, Geizo retorts that if the Europeans are no longer beneficial to him, they are equally left without protection. Izogi detects a budding affection between Nawi and Malik, observing their discreet exchange, while Ferreira converses with Geizo. Later, they meet in secrecy, where Nawi offers Malik a protective totem as a gesture of concern for his safety. When Malik confesses that he has nothing to give her in return, Nawi simply appropriates one of his knives. Nawi heads to the bathing area and unexpectedly crosses paths with Naniska, who sternly reprimands her for secretly meeting with Malik. Their disagreement escalates into a heated argument, but eventually, Naniska approaches Nawi, seeking a moment of vulnerability. She confides in Nawi about a deeply buried secret from her past, the child she was compelled to give up. This child had been the result of a traumatic incident of rape, and Amenza had been instrumental in aiding Naniska in concealing and ultimately relinquishing the child. Naniska vividly recollects the poignant act of cutting into the child's left arm and embedding a shark tooth into it. Naniska takes the dramatic step of cutting into Nawi's arm and extracting the tooth, providing undeniable confirmation that Nawi is indeed her daughter. This revelation also solidifies Nawi's identity as the daughter of Oba Ade. Overwhelmed by this shocking revelation, Nawi departs in a state of disbelief. The following morning, Naniska and some of her soldiers monitor the Oyo camp closely. They ignite the gunpowder, causing multiple explosions that frighten the Oyo's horses and leave them vulnerable. The Agojie launch a fierce attack, resulting in a brutal and deadly battle that claims the lives of many Oyo and Agoji warriors. Some of the women, including Izogi and Nawi, are captured during the chaos. While in captivity, Nawi discovers that the binds of a fellow captive have loosened and encourages her to roll off the wagon and make a run for it, back to Dahomey. Amid their confinement, Nawi assists Izogi in trying to mend her broken arm. The young woman who escapes successfully returns to Dahomey and reports to Naniska about the Oyo's plan for retaliation against the Agoji. Geizo acknowledges Naniska's achievements by promoting her, but strictly forbids her from taking further action. When the European slavers arrive to claim the captives, Izogi and Nawi initiate a desperate fight against them. Tragically, Izogi is fatally shot and dies in Nawi's arms, leaving Nawi to wail in grief for her beloved sister. Nawi is subsequently imprisoned, but Malik visits her, revealing that the captives are destined for England, and he expresses his desire to protect her. The implication is that they share an intimate moment after their conversation. Naniska leads her warriors in a daring assault on the European camp. They set the camp ablaze and engaged in a fierce battle with the men before liberating the captives. Malik, turning against Ferreira, plays a pivotal role in freeing the captives. However, This act of defiance results in the captives retaliating by dragging him into the water, where they beat him and hold his head underwater until he drowns. Nawi assists Naniska in combat as she finally confronts Oba-Ade. In a tense showdown, Oba-Ade attempts to overpower Naniska, but she ultimately prevails, impaling him and bringing an end to his life. With their mission accomplished, everyone returns home, and Nawi bids farewell to Malik. The Agogie return to their homeland with the rescued captives, and Naniska faces a confrontation with Gezo. Although he acknowledges her defiance of his orders, he expresses gratitude for her role in vanquishing the Oyo Empire and formally promotes her to the esteemed title of Woman King, a moment celebrated by everyone present. Nawi pays tribute to Izugi, and Naniska joins her in this solemn moment. Naniska then acknowledges Nawi as her daughter, marking a profound and heartfelt reconciliation. Together, they join the others in a joyous celebratory dance, concluding their remarkable journey.